What's up, y'all, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. And we have a pretty interesting story today. So for anyone that's not living under a rock, we all know who Jeffrey Dahmer is. We also know that there's a new documentary on Netflix about him, and it's doing really well. You know, a lot of people are really fascinated by this documentary. It dives into the psyche of one of America's most famous, or should I say infamous, serial killers. But there's a lot that you can, take from that and apply to the real world, but some people aren't quite getting the message, and they're even calling to cancel the documentary altogether. And we're going to dive into that story here today. So I've been seeing this story kind of all over social media, and I specifically found an article from XXL magazine. XXL is a very popular hip-hop magazine because the actual subject, or one of the subjects, I should say, of the video today is going to be Bussy Badass. He's a rapper. I don't listen to him, to be honest, but he came out with some pretty remarkable claims. Something I just straight up, I'm gonna be honest, don't agree with. I think it's very ignorant thinking here. But let's hop into the article here. The article begins by saying, the new Netflix series Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, is doing numbers on the streaming service and is the talk of the internet. But Bussy Badass believes black people shouldn't watch it. On Thursday, September 29th, Bussy Badass weighed in on the craze caused online by the new semi-fictional Netflix series that centers around the life and crimes of serial killer and cannibal Jeffrey Dahmer, who murdered a total of 17 men between the years of 1978 and 1991 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He says, quote, "As black people, we should boycott the Jeffrey Dahmer movie." Bussy Badass wrote on Twitter, "What he did to our black kids is fucking sick. Hashtag Netflix, take this movie down. It's sick." I want to say, before we even hop in on my thoughts on the subject, I just want to say that it always seems like if the article mentions Twitter in someone's tweet on Twitter, you know that there is a heap of ignorance that's about to be spewed. But I digress. Let's kind of dive in. Let's maybe give this a thought here. So my first thought with this is that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And the reason I say that is because Jeffrey Dahmer did some very sick things. If you're familiar, I've actually not seen the documentary myself. It's actually something I want to watch, but I boycott Netflix altogether for my own personal reasons. I won't go into them. But I am really big into serial killers and psychology. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know that about me. But the thing is that there can be a lot to learn from this situation, this documentary, The Life of Jeffrey Dahmer. And what do I mean by that? So Jeffrey Dahmer, like I said, did some really sick things. He targeted specifically young boys. And he also targeted, kind of like Bussy Badass was saying, black people. And he did really horrible things. He killed them, he ate them, he mutilated their bodies. The stories go on and on. I'm not going to get into the gruesome details in this video, but a lot of the problem and a lot of the reason why he was able to get away with what he did is because the way of the times. So back then, black people were very much persecuted. It was a much different world. Same with gay people. Gay people were his target, obviously, because Jeffrey Dahmer's a man, a boy. I don't need to explain that, right? That's pretty obvious. And we all know, how gay people are persecuted in society, even today. But the reason that Jeffrey Dahmer, in my personal opinion, was able to get away with what he did was because of the way of the times and the mentality towards gay people and the mentality towards black people. And so how do we as society progress? How do we as society get better? How do we, stand up for things like civil rights, the rights of these persecuted individuals? Well, in my opinion, it all starts by, not burying the past. How does this motherfucker expect us to learn from the past and get better if we're burying our, bad history? For me personally, I can't help but think of people like Dr. Martin Luther King, people like Nelson Mandela, people like Mahatma Gandhi, right? These are civil rights activists, and they were in the streets, in the front lines, participating in things like civil disobedience, protests, the whole 9 yards, right? They were trying to get their voices heard. They were really just putting it out there. They were putting it all on the line. Dr. Martin Luther King, he was not trying to, take something terrible that happened to black people and say, oh, let's just push it under the rug. No, he wanted that shit exposed. And that's what I think we need to do as a society. We need to stop being soft. We need to understand that, hey, as a human race, as a society, we have fucked up. We've bred some pretty terrible people. We've done some pretty terrible things, but we can use that to our advantage and use it to propel us towards really a better stage of life. And, people like Bussy Badass is like, talk about just a classic case of just missing the whole point. This Jeffrey Dahmer documentary was not released. These people aren't sitting in the studio or, wherever you make movies, the set rather. They're not sitting there saying, oh, let's release this Jeffrey Dahmer documentary so we can be racist. No, that's not the point. You're missing the point. You're turning something that can actually be very beneficial and you're making it an issue about race. I mean, the title itself is called Monster. Like, it's trying to expose the terrible things that he did. And we can, again, like I keep saying, I keep reiterating it, but we can use that to become better. By not canceling this program, we can actually begin to understand, that, again, we fucked up, we did some terrible things, but we can use that to more, better the human race. And not to mention, give the victims of this terrible tragedy, these terrible actions, a voice. The article concludes, though, by saying Bussy isn't the first person to be upset by Netflix's new series, which stars actor Evan Peters as Dahmer. Netflix reportedly removed the show from under the LGBTQ tag after facing backlash. I would say maybe, that was probably a bad idea, to be honest, to put it under there, because, again, that's not the primary focus. A lot of people are missing the point. This, I could definitely understand why people might think that having seen this, but again, they're missing the point. But it goes on to say the families of some of the victims and some of the people portrayed in the series have also taken umbrage with the program. And that blows my fucking mind, because it's like, these people literally lived it and they experienced it. Maybe not necessarily like firsthand, but they have a deeper connection to this. And so they should know more powerfully than, the average person that this was obviously terrible, but that there's a lot to learn from this. So I don't know. My thoughts on the situation is, don't cover up the past. Otherwise, we'll be blinded. We won't know how to shape the future. Because it's like the old saying goes, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but it goes something along the lines of, those who do not look to the past are destined to relive the future, right? So with that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like rating, subscribe to the channel for more commentaries just like this. And until next time, guys, this is Runter. We'll catch you on the next one. Later.